Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. Malacanang says President Marcos is not bending over backwards, much more bending the law just to make peace with the Dutertes. That's after the family's allies dangled conditions before accepting the president's reconciliation offer.
Now, 3 years to the next presidential elections, and opposition frontliner Senator Risa Ontiveros says she's keeping an open mind about aiming for the country's top post.
And amid persistent challenges within the country's basic education system, advocates can still see solutions. Among them is Dr. Melwida Guevara, who will be joining us later on in the program.
Hindi po magpapahawak sa leeg at hindi po magpapadikta ang Pangulo sa mali.
First, there was President Bongbong Marcos extending a hand of reconciliation. Then came conditions from allies of Vice President Sara Duterte and her family. Now, the palace wants to make it clear the Marcos' peace offer was not solely for the Dutertes. This was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro's statement a day after the chief executive was told to bring Digong home first from detention in The Hague before talking about mending ties.
Tandaan po natin, hindi po magpapahawak sa leeg at hindi po magpapadikta ang Pangulo sa mali. Hindi po tatalikuran at babaliktarin ng Pangulo ang batas para lamang pagsilibihan ang personal na interes ng iilan. So tandaan po natin, lagi pong sa batas ang Pangulo. Kaibigan o batas? Batas pa rin po ang pipiliin ng Pangulo. And huwag po tayong mag-focus na sinasabing open for reconciliation para lamang sa mga Duterte. Maliwanag po ang sinabi ng Pangulo sa lahat ng tao na maaaring hindi kapareho ng kanyang paniniwala o ng prinsipyo o ng polisiya.
Castro also had this to say to former presidential spokesman Harry Roque, who claimed the government tracker teams created to find him is a cover to embezzle money.
Sabi nga niya na siya ay concerned sa Ponto ng Bayan, hindi ba mas maganda kung magboluntaryo na siyang umuwi rito para hindi na siya pag-aksaya ng oras at ng pera ng gobyerno.
Senator Bongo meanwhile reiterated that the ball is now back in the administration's court to show its sincerity on a possible Marcos Duterte reconciliation.
I cannot speak in behalf sa pamilya, no? But kung meron man po, bilang may personal position, may personal thought on this. Importante rito yung sinceridad. Dapat sincere ka sa pag-uusap. At unang hakbang dyan ay pauwiin si Tatay Digong. Kung kaya nyo pong ipadala sa loob ng 14 na oras si Tatay Digong, alam kong kaya nyo rin pong ipabalik dito sa lalong mabilis na panahon.
Re-elected Senator Bongo confirms both Senate President Cheese Escudero and returning Senator Tito Soto talked to the so-called Duterte bloc on the upper chamber's leadership. Go refrained to go into details, but he said the initial talks happened during the proclamation and that both Escudero and Soto asked for their group's support. The top-ranking re-electionist said they are open to support anyone for the Senate presidency as long as their bloc votes for them. Earlier, Senator Bato de la Rosa had said they will meet on this when Senator Robin Padilla returns from The Hague.
Marami pa pong ibang nakikipag-usap rin po sa amin. But we are open sa lahat po ng pag-uusap. Basta ang criteria namin, unahin yung interest ng bayan, interest ng bawat Pilipino. At independent Senate po ito. Importante rito, ako susuport, kahit sino naman po, basta yung gusto ko na magiging independent po ang Senado, unahin yung interest ng bayan, unahin yung interest ng bawat Pilipino. Yun po ang magiging criteria ko po sa pipiliin naming next Senate President.
Go also insisted that they will not require the would-be Senate President to stop the impeachment trials against Vice President Sara Duterte. In fact, he personally prefers to follow the legal process and determine if there is indeed evidence against the VP. To quote, he said, kung legally hindi naman po legal na itawid ito sa next Congress, edi dapat wala na. So sundin muna natin yung legal process kung ano yung legality ng impeachment. Meanwhile, the duly assigned House prosecutors for VP Duterte's impeachment said their preparations will not be hampered by President Bongbong Marcos's call for reconciliation with the Duterte camp, and even if the lower chamber changes its leadership. That's because they believe someone still has to be held accountable for the unauthorized confidential expenses made by the offices under the Vice President.
We will pursue it with the same eagerness, same vigor as before. We are, in fact, very excited to work with our two new members. So we just let the election season pass.
Naniniwala akong unity within the country is actually one ingredient that most Filipinos like. However, that unity will have a delineation kasi kaakibat kasi ng unity is also accountability. So I am not sure how the president will delineate that.
Indeed, the midterm polls have just wrapped up, but the so-called traditional opposition is already preparing for the presidential elections on 2028. Their possible bet, Senator Risa Hontiveros, and she says she's ready for it. Mobile journalist Isa Abelio has the report.
I'm open to all possibilities. I'm not saying no.
This is Senator Risa Hontiveros' answer to being the traditional opposition's standard bearer in the 2028 presidential elections. Even as the 2025 polls just wrapped up, the lawmaker admits her group is already in the process of preparing for what's next. Hontiveros hopes her allies feels the same way she does about the matter.
At yun yung hinihingi ko din sa lahat na mga kasama sa opposition or independent bloc, na maging bukas kami sa lahat ng possibilities at sa isa't isa, alang-alang sa oposisyon at alang-alang sa ating mga kababayan.
For now, Hontiveros says the priority is to consolidate the forces of the opposition in the next 9 months. She plans to reach out not only to allies, but to supporters and others who help them in the campaign.
I do feel na mas nakapag-accumulate kami ng kahit konti pang mas maraming kapangyarihan sa ngayon, as affirmed, as validated ng ating mga botante. So yung hindi namin na-maximize na pagkakataon ng 2022 na mag-consolidate, we have that rare second chance now.
Hontiveros is also ready to lead the minority in case she will be joined by returning Senators Bam Aquino and Kiko Pangilinan in the bloc.
Wish ko na magsama kami sa minority o sa isang independent bloc. Pero alam nyo naman, kaming lahat ng mga senador dito, we have our own decision-making process. Pero walang hard and fast na usapan na singilan ngayon sa isa't isa. So ito ang pagsara ng 19th Congress at sa pagbukas ng 20th Congress, kailangan at nagsimula na kaming mag-usap last week para mag-level off ano yung magiging disposisyon ng bawat isa and therefore ano yung magiging organizational shape.
Still, there's that possibility that the minority label might go to the allies of former President Rodrigo Duterte at the upper chamber. If this comes to pass, Hontiveros would rather opt out.
Kung sinasabi nilang opposition sila, senyales na naghahanda silang mag-vie para maging minority bloc or minority dito sa Senado. Kung makukuha nila yung label ng minority, may option pa rin po ako or kami kung magdesisyon po kami na isang independent bloc na magpapatuloy talaga sa pag-check and balance, magpapatuloy sa pag-fiscalize at pati sa labas ng Senado, magpapatuloy sa pagbubuo ng oposisyon. Pareho sa Duterte at kina Presidente.
Joining the majority bloc is also out of the question.
Sapat na yung nakaraang 9 na taon, marami-rami ang napagtulungan sa mga miyembro ng majority. Depende sa mga advocacies, maraming happy bills na itinawag, maraming investigasyon din, maraming budget interventions. Pero para sa akin, para maging consistent sa nakaraang 9 na taon at lalong maging consistent sa mga susunod na taon hanggang 2028, 2034, 2040, importanteng manatiling consistent na hindi sumali sa majority, lalo na kung hindi naman ako kaalyado ng administrasyon, at mag-provide ng alternative pole or center of gravity.
What if her allies vote a different way when it comes to the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte? Ontiveros says, no problem, no hard feelings.
Sa karanasan ko sa nakaraang tatlong minorities, kanya-kanyang boto pa rin. But of course, we talk. May kumbinsihan or minsan, ang best case scenarios may usapan na pare-pareho naman ang pananaw natin, so pare-pareho ang aming mga boto. But as you have observed, may mga pagkakataon din na may divergences.
Mobile journalist Isa Abelio, we are One News.
It's just been 9 days after the midterm elections. It seems like an eternity, right? Fast. Let's bring in COMELEC spokesperson, Attorney Rex Laudianco. Good evening to you, Attorney, and welcome once again to The Big Story.
Magandang gabi po, Ma'am Tess, Ma'am Sean, and Ma'am Pauline, and to all the viewers of The Big Story. Good evening po.
Right, we want to get an update on the audit of the returns. When will this be completed?
In around mga 30 to 45 days po matatapos because there are almost 800 ballot boxes to be audited po. No? Right now, they have passed the 200 ballot boxes more. At ngayon po, wala pong nakikitang discrepancy from the manual audit and manual count of the ballots insofar as the voter receipt and the election returns are concerned. Wala pong nakikitang discrepancy and accurate po ang ating resulta.
So far, 100% accurate.
That is correct po. No? That's correct.
These are, again, say that again, Attorney, 200 ballot election returns, ballot boxes?
Ballot boxes, ma'am. They have to bring kasi almost 800 ballot boxes po to Manila. Manually count po lahat ng balota nandyan, whether 800 dyan or 1,000. And they are checking yung po mismong pagkaka-shade. Of course, there will be variants na dahil po yung mga maliit na shade ay maaring bilangin po ng ating auditors. But then again, it didn't pass the threshold of the ACM.
So this would somehow disprove or set aside yung mga kwento na, ay, hindi nag-match yung resibo ko dun sa binoto ko.
Tama po. Yan naman po yung laging purpose ng ating random manual audit. Kasi ever since po, mula 2010, lagi na po may claim na ganyan. Iba ang lumabas sa resibo, iba ang binoto ko, nag-overvote, nag-undervote, and so many allegations po na until now, lalong-lalo na po in the most recent elections, wala pong nag-execute ng sworn statement. Despite the fact na pwedeng gawin yun, mismo sa electoral board, susumpaan nila doon sa minutes at mag-file din po sa amin. Puro po anecdotal po eh.
And what other loose ends from the recently concluded polls are on top of the COMELEC's watch list right now? Attorney, kumbaga may yung mga nasirang machine, 311 on election night. Have you figured that out? Even matters like kailan po masasettle yung sa dalawa pang hindi na proklama na party list. And even yung mga overspending and yung mga maling paglagay ng mga campaign materials.
Opo, isa-isayin po natin. Doon sa 311 po na pinalitan na automated counting machines, more than 90% of those are minor issues that could have been easily repaired on-site. Kaya lang nga po kasi nakalagay sa aming rules and we are very strict on this, na kung magtatagal po yung pagre-repair, wag na, palitan na. Dalawa pong advantage na makukuha namin dyan. Walang delay. At wala po tayong nadinig na nagreklamo na sinabi, 2 oras, 3 oras kami naghintay para sa replacement machines dahil readily available. At ikalawa, bumabalik po yung kumpiyansa kaysa mag-isip sila ng ginamit nilang machine. Meron sira, at least bago, wala pong problema. And so far as the SOSE is concerned po, meron na silang hanggang June 11 to submit the SOSE. At paalala po namin, kahit yung nag-withdraw na kandidato, pero kung nag-withdraw kayo during the campaign period, kahit 1 o 2 araw lang po yung pumasok doon, naging kandidato kahit obligado po kayo na mag-file ng SOSE. At paalala rin po sa mga nananong kandidato, hindi po kayo makakaupo sa pwesto nyo. You cannot assume your office kapag wala po kayong naisumite ng SOSE. And besides, sabi nga po namin, yung pong mga hindi na nakapag-submit ng SOSE dati, tapos ngayon hindi na naman magsasubmit, sa susunod po na magpapayad kayo ng COC, hindi ng fine ang aabutin po, kundi administrative cancellation ng inyo pong mga COCs dahil yan po ang penalty for failure to file twice sa SOSE. And so far as the illegal campaign materials and unlawful campaign materials at yung hindi po nagtatanggal ng lampas na sa 5 days ng kanilang campaign materials, tuloy-tuloy po ang proseso ng Special Task Force Backlash. Tama po na hindi na namin sila mapapadisqualify ngayon dahil po tapos na ang halalan, yung iba na-proclaim na. But you can still go after them by filing election offense cases. Yung po kasi pag hindi pagsunod sa COMELEC resolution ay maaring magdulot ng criminal case again. Ang election offense po, ang penalty po dyan, 1 to 6 years imprisonment, perpetual disqualification to public office, pati na rin po yung forfeiture na right to suffrage.
Attorney Rex, balikan ko lang po yung dun sa pag-suspend ng proclamation ng dalawang party list, particularly yung sa Duterte Youth. How does the COMELEC respond dun po sa statement ni Duterte Youth Chairman na si Ronald Cardema? Sabi po niya, grave abuse of discretion daw ang ginawa ng COMELEC sa hindi pagproklama sa kanila. Kasi 2019 pa po daw yung issue na yan, and 2022, na-proklama naman po sila. So what makes it different this time around na isinuspend ng COMELEC ang kanilang proklamasyon?
Opo, sa kanila na rin pong statement, talagang inaamin po nila na pending yung issue. And this cannot go on forever po. Hindi naman uubra na meron po tumatayo sa ating pamahalaan na pending issue na ilang taon na ay hindi i-resolve. Despite the fact na alam natin pare-pareho na hanging issue. Ayaw na po namin questionin kung bakit hindi na-resolve ng previous Commission on Elections yung tato nito. Basta importante po, sinikilala ng lahat, on record, na talagang issue pending, publication requirement, jurisdictional requirement doon sa kanilang registration. At isa rin po ang sinasabi namin sa kanila, walang po pagtatalo. Nakakuha sila ng sapat na boto para manalo, makakuha ng seat. Nasuspindi lamang po ang kanilang proclamation para tapusin ang tato and once and for all, to put finish dito sa issue na to. Ayaw po ba nila na yan matatapos ang issue kung talaga pong walang basis ito, di ma-dismiss ang kaso, ma-proclaim po sila. Ngunit kung may basis po ito, mag-rule against them ang COMELEC, may reports pa, makakapunta na po sila sa Supreme Court and once and for all, masettle po ang bagay nito. Ganon din po ang pangyayari doon sa BH Party List Group. Nais lamang po ng COMELEC na tapusin po ang lahat ng issue na hangin. At the same case po, doon sa mga local candidates na nag-issue rin po kami ng suspension of proclamation. Tatapusin po lahat ito bago po ang noon of June 30.
Attorney, could that issue not have been settled before they were put on the ballot? Wala bang panahon noon?
Hindi naman po sa walang panahon. Kaya lang po, yung movements kasi dito, yung mga litigants po, ay nag-file sa COMELEC at pinaalala nila na mayroong pending issue. At nakita nga po natin na talagang may pending issue mula doon sa previous composition ng commission na hindi na i-settle. At grave po yung issue na yan, hindi biro. Tandaan po natin yung publication requirement doon po sa registration ay isang jurisdictional requirement. Ang nangyari po kasi dito, kung tama ang aking pagkakaalala, nag-file po sila ng petition for registration. Dinay outright ng division na nakahandle nitong kaso na to, nag-file ng motion for reconsideration sa NBank, nag-grant po ang kanilang motion, however, hindi po nakapag-publication. Yan pong bagay na yan kasi ay tinatawag sa atin na jurisdictional requirement para po merong notice sa buong mundo at maka-acquire ng jurisdiction ng COMELEC. So this issue needs to be settled.
Okay, pero ang pagkakaintindi namin, no, Attorney Laudianco, dinulog na nga ni Ronald Cardema ng Duterte Youth Party List sa Korte Suprema ang issue na ito. So, pa-explain na lang po kung sino ba talaga ang magdedesisyon. Is it the COMELEC? Is it the Supreme Court? And paano ba yon?
Opo, yung issue na yan ay remaining pending sa COMELEC at dapat po obligado kami magdesisyon. Inakyat po kami sa Korte Suprema dahil sa kanilang pananaw, yung pong pagsuspindi namin ng proclamation, hindi pa po proklama sa kanila, ay isang grave abuse of discretion. At tama naman po yan. Talaga naman po isang legal remedy talaga ang pag-akyat sa Supreme Court at inaasahan po namin ito. So kami naman po sa COMELEC, kung sakaling anuman ay pag-utos ng Korte Suprema dito, magkaroon ng PRO, status quo ante order, or any order for that matter po, lagi naman po sumusunod ang COMELEC po sa utos ng Supreme Court.
But your reply will be, you were just performing your duty and it wasn't grave abuse of discretion. Tama po?
That is correct po. Opo. Dahil nga po kung makikita natin talaga, wala pong pagtatanggi kahit sa kanila that the issue remains to be pending. And at sa isang banda po, kung titignan nyo, meron nga pong party list group na matagal nang nakapagsilbi dun sa Kongreso. Ngunit natuklasan ng COMELEC po na sila po ay nag-assume ng posisyon nang hindi na ipoproclaim ng COMELEC kinancel namin ang kanilang registration at sinustain po kami ng Supreme Court judge. So kung makikita nyo, the long arm of the law really reaches those who have violated it. Hindi naman po uubra kasi na porket naluklok, nakaupo sa pwesto, ay titikip na natin ang mata natin doon sa mga requirements ng ating batas.
While we're still on the issue of party lists, attorney, marami kasing reklamo din na pinalusot ng COMELEC itong may mga pangalan ng government programs. Could the COMELEC not be stricter next time dun sa susunod na eleksyon po?
At we will be stricter po. Yan na po yung naipangako ni Chairman Garcia. Tama po kayo, nandiyan na sila, nabigyan ng accreditation, na-register po yung mga acronyms at mga pangalan na yan. At totoo rin po yung mga reklamo ng ating mga kababayan na merong mga na-mislead talaga. Akala nila yung grupo na to yung namimigay ng ayuda at iba pa. So para po maiwasan ito, ang sabi po ni Chairman Garcia, sa mga susunod na magpaparehistro pa ay hindi na papayagan gumamit ng iba-ibang pangalan na hindi naman related doon sa kanilang advokasya at o kaya sikat sa telenovela at mga ibang ayuda. Kailangan maging makatotohanan po tayo dito sa ating ginagawa. At isa pa po, talaga po ang COMELEC ay seryoso sa pagsusulong ng pag-aamyenda sa party list. Marami na po kaming nakikita talaga na dapat nang mapalitan, dapat nang maamyenda. Hindi lang po dyan, pati na rin po doon sa ating Omnibus Election Code. Meron na po kami almost 1,000 page revised Omnibus Election Code na isusumite po muli namin sa 20th Congress.
Okay, quick follow-up lang, attorney, doon sa mga party list na hindi na-proklama. Ang dami kasi syempre umiikot na naman sa social media, hindi din natin minsan alam kung saan tayo maniniwala. So baka you can clarify, makaka-apekto ba to doon sa mga sumasabit or yung mga nasa past the cut-off na mga party list? Kasi may ibang nagsasabi, baka makapasok daw sila. May ganun po bang or may iwan bang bakante yung mga seats kung if ever hindi talaga matuloy na maproklama yung dalawang party list?
Hindi pa po kami umaabot sa punto na yan at hindi pa rin po namin masasagot ano man ang kapupuntahan ng kasong ito. Basta importante po, may due process sa lahat. Bibigyan po namin ng day in court ang parehong party list. Pero sa titignan po natin paano magiging resulta ng kaso nila. At sinasabi rin po namin, may nag-circulate din po na talagang single out daw po sila dahil sa pangalan ng grupo. On the contrary po, si Chairman Garcia ay minsan naging abogado ng dalawang grupong ito. Kaya imposible po yung sinasabi nila na medyo bias o kaya ay talagang single out ang grupo. Alam po nila yan na naging abogado nila si Chairman Garcia. Kaya nga po sa puntong ito, para walang bahid ng kung ano mang issue, nag-inhibit si Chairman Garcia. Let the process take its natural course po.
Attorney Rex, sa ibang topic lang po, nabanggit nga po ni Ses kanina, it's been 9 days since the midterm elections, pero may mga teachers po, mga grupo ng guro na nagrereklamo, hindi pa daw po nila natanggap yung mga honoraria nila. Kailan po ba i-release yun ng COMELEC?
Na-release na po actually mula po nung araw po ng halalan mismo at ang ginagawa po ng karamihan ng aming election officers, pagbalik po ng ATM o kaya po inaabangan na namin sa treasurer's offices, pagbalik ng ballot box, ay agad na namin silang binibigyan ng honoraria. Unfortunately po, merong mga guro po kasi at naunawaan po natin ito na talagang napagod. Ang ginawa po nila pagkabalik ay umuwi at nagpahinga. Kaya nga po patuloy po ang pananawagan natin sa ating mga guro na makipag-ugnayan na po sa inyong mga principals na sa gano'n malaman po namin kung saan po tayo magkikita, saan namin maibibigay ang inyong honoraria. Nandiyan na po ang lahat ng inyong honoraria sa aming election officer. Kailangan lang po namin kayo mapapirma sa payroll at nang matanggap nyo na po ito. Wala po kaming nais na delay. In fact, nandiyan na po talaga ready. So nakikiusap po muli kami, makipag-ugnayan po sa inyong principal, makipag-ugnayan sa aming election officer na sa lalong madaling panahon matanggap po ninyo ang inyong honoraria. Siguro next time dapat electronic na, sir. Para mabilis. Opo, minsan na po namin sinubok yan, ma'am, sa pamamagitan ng kanilang ATM or cash card. Unfortunately, meron po mga lugar kasi na walang land bank. Ang nangyari po, nag-withdraw sila sa ATM ng ibang bangko, nababawasan pa. So, ayaw po namin ng ganon. Kaya bumalik po ulit kami at mas gusto po nila yung task na inaabot po sa kanila sa pamamagitan ng payroll. Ayun, okay. Marami pong salamat sa inyo. Thank you once again, COMELEC spokesperson Rex Laudianco.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, the government gives the green light to hire more teachers. Still, public school systems remain short-handed amid learning gaps and other challenges among students. We'll discuss that when the big story returns. Keep it here.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. The Department of Budget and Management approved 16,000 new teaching positions in public schools for this year. This is just the first tranche of the targeted 20,000 teaching positions in 2025. The new positions will be allocated across different educational levels with corresponding salary grades and will have funding of 4.194 billion pesos. But DepEd Undersecretary Willie Cabral says based on their inventory, the country still lacks 60,000 teachers. Even with the new positions, there's still a 30,000 deficit. Senator Win Gatchalian says the government needs to act fast to fill the vacant posts and attract top graduates for them. He warns the shortage of teachers will impact students' learning.
And after 5 years of complaints and poor results, the Department of Education, or DepEd, has revised the senior high school portion of the K-12 curriculum. These revisions focus on reducing the number of learning competencies and subjects, while also strengthening foundational skills and flexibility in subject choices. The senior high school curriculum now features 2 tracks, academic and technical professional. Elective subjects are now grouped into clusters, allowing students more flexibility in choosing subjects. The number of core subjects in grades 11 and 12 have also been reduced from 15 to just 5. These 5 core subjects are effective communication, life skills, general mathematics, general science, and social studies. The revised curriculum also prioritizes the development of kinder to grade 3 learners' foundational skills, including literacy, numeracy, and socio-emotional skills.
Now let's try and understand what all these changes mean. And tonight, joining us is Dr. Milwida Guevara. She's the founding president of Sinergia Foundation Philippines. Dr. Guevara is also a member of the Literacy Coordinating Council. Good evening, Dr. Guevara, and welcome to The Big Story.
Hi, Ses, and your colleagues. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat.
Sean and Pauline. Well,
hi, Sean and Pauline, yes.
Sinergia has been in the at the education forefront for over 2 decades now. Tell us what works. Why were you able to improve literacy, for one, in the areas where you are partnering with LGUs, and how government, the national government, may adopt these methods?
Kasi naniniwala kami na it takes a village to raise a child. Hindi ito makakaya lang ng DepEd. Kailangan kasama mo yung parents, kasama mo rin yung barangay, kasama mo rin lalo-lalo na ang local governments. Kasi ang problema ng bata sa edukasyon ay hindi lamang guro, hindi lamang aklat, hindi lamang paaralan, gutom, roads, security, diba? Tapos pagmamahal sa pagmamahal ng mga magulang, bullying, yung mga maraming problema, diba? Yung mga single parents, ganyan, yung loneliness, mental health, at itong kabuuan ng problemang ito, hindi kaya talaga ng DepEd. Kailangan talagang comprehensive at sistema, buong komunidad dapat ang sumama sa pagpapaaral ng mga bata.
If you can
so yung ginagawa, sorry.
Opo, if you can name one thing na pwedeng gawin ng DepEd, kasi nakakalula ang sasama ng lahat ng figures. Although, of course, the Statistics Authority corrected their 19 million functional illiteracy.
Functionally illiterate Filipinos to just over 5 million, 5.18
from 19. But still, that's a big number. Anong pwedeng, one thing lang? Well, of course, we reported kanina na nag-hire ng they will hire new teachers.
Ang one thing lang talaga, bumalik lang tayo sa reading muna. Turuan natin ang lahat ng bata na bumasa.
Wow, back to basics.
Yun lang, mag-concentrate lang tayo muna sa reading. Kasi kapag nakakabasa yung bata, magagawa din niya yung mga pag-solve ng problem sa math. Ang problema kasi, hindi nakakabasa yung bata. Hindi ba ang study sinasabi, sa some 10-year-old children, isa lang ang nakakabasa ng maayos. Yung 9 sa 10, hindi nakakabasa ng maayos. So, how can we expect even high school students to be able to understand what they're reading? Doon lang tayo mag-concentrate sa elementary. Nako talaga, says nung buksan namin ng sinerhiya, sabi namin mag-elementary education kami kasi nandun ang problema. Minsan, tinitignan natin yung college scholarships, pero dapat talaga hindi sila marunong bumasa. Pabasahin muna natin ang bata. For the first and second month, basa lang. Turuan lang silang magbasa na may naiintindihan nila at nagiging malikhain sila. So hindi lang yung who, what, where, when. Kailangan how, why, explain. Parang ganon, di ba? Para meron din tayong critical thinking.
You mean that's not done?
Hindi di ba? Ang sinasabi nga ng DepEd, napakadaming itinuturo sa bata. Sabi ko nga minsan sa BARM, wag na lang ninyong ituro ng napakaraming subjects, pabasahin niyo muna yung mga bata. Kasi baliwala naituro mo nga lahat, natapos mo yung lesson plan mo, natapos mo yung lahat ng competencies mo, na-cover mo yung curriculum, pero hindi naman nila naiintindihan, di ba? Parang naglolokohan lang tayo.
Pero how will that fit into the framework of tong K-12 curriculum natin na tinatabasan nila ng tinatabasan, Dr. Guevara? Ngayon, ang focus na lang daw para dun sa maliliit na bata, grades 1 to 3, ay literacy, numeracy, and socio-emotional skills. Pati dun sa older kids, from 15 subjects, binabaan na to 5. Is this a good first step or kulang pa rin?
Magandang first step yon, di ba? Kaya nga lang, ang sinasabi ko, dapat kasama yung magulang. Kasi ang bata natututo rin sa magulang nila di ba? Kung napapabayaan sa paaralan, yun, pagdating ng bata, television, cellphone, ginagawang yaya yung cellphone o kaya TV, kailangan may ayuda yung magulang, di ba? Tapos, kailangan din, napaka-importante, pakanin natin ng mga bata. Kung walang talagang pagkain, di magtanim tayo ng gulay, di ba? At least may kakainin ng bata na hindi siya gutom pagdating sa paaralan. Importante yun di ba?
So you panig po kayo sa ginawang pagliit, pag-condense ng curriculum?
Ay, kapuri-puri yun. Kapuri-puri talaga. Napakadaming itinuturo sa bata na hindi naman nila naiintindihan. At para sa kanila, walang kabuluhan. Kailangan ituro natin buhay di ba? Dapat baguhin din natin ang sistema ng pagtuturo kasi parating nasa paaralan. Kailangan maging dapat life situation ang dapat nating ituro. Ano ba yung nakikita nila sa mga advertisement, yung mga forms ng mga
TikTok.
Tama.
TikTok.
Ano yung opinion niyo?
Yun nga yung problema Kasi nga masyado tayong na-conscious na kailangan panoorin natin yung TikTok tsaka yung mga Reels. Hindi na tayo nagbabasa, di ba? I think nung bata kayo, you were reading books. At tsaka yung mga projects dapat talaga sumusulat. Ngayon, di na tayo sumusulat pa-text-text na lang tayo. Kaya normally, hindi tayo marunong magsalita. Hindi tayo marunong sumulat. Hindi tayo marunong makipag-discuss. Sabi ko nga sa mga nanay, alam niyo, wag na lang, kahit sa pagkikipag-usap ninyo sa mga bata o kaya sa mga kapitbahay ninyo, pag-usapan ninyo yung hindi chismis. Pag-usapan niyo yung mga issues. Ano ba yung tama dito? Ikaw ba isang ayon dito? Ano ba yung mga tanong mo dito na dapat nating pag-usapan? Dapat talaga baguhin natin yung ating nakagawian na parang walang kabuluhan yung mga pinag-uusapan natin at mga pinapanood natin.
Okay, pero sorry, Dr. Guevara, balik ko lang ulit dun sa K-12 curriculum kasi yun po yung topic natin for now. I know you gave your thoughts about the early education and focusing on reading, pero as a whole, syempre nagkaroon tayo ng debate, K-12, from K-12 going K-10, and then ngayon K-12 na ulit, pero ni-realign nila yung tracks from 4 tracks, ngayong 2 tracks na lang for senior high school. Ano po yung opinion nyo sa initial plans na ito? Kahit na wala pang rollout, pabor ba kayo na binalik pa yung grade 11 and 12 ulit?
Ah, kasi ang problema hindi handa yung mga bata sa kolehiyo o kaya kahit nagtapos ng high school at hindi sila makakatuntong sa kolehiyo, hindi sila nagkakaroon ng hanap buhay, di ba? So, ang bagong curriculum talagang tinitignan nila na magkaroon ng skills ang mga bata. Kaya kahit na hindi sila makatungtong ng kolehiyo, magkakaroon sila ng hanap buhay, halimbawa, magkakaroon sila ng skills na pagluluto, o kaya makakapagsulat sila, o makakakuha ng dictation, o makakakumpuni ng mga bagay, di ba? Yung basic skills. Tapos yung pagiging life skills, di ba? Yung meron silang confidence na makipag-diskusyon sa mga isang grupo, makaka-fill up sila ng application form, makakagawa sila ng budget, maiintindihan nila yung mga reseta ng doktor, yung ganon. At yung mga instruction, kasi ako minsan hindi ko nga magawa yung manual. Halimbawa, mag-assemble ka ng isang bagay. Meron kang susundin na manual, hindi mo magawa, di ba? Kasi hindi natututuhan yun sa paaralan, yung skills talaga ng pangunawa.
Pero Dr. Guevara, isa nga po sa mga pinoint out ni Congressman Roman Romulo dun sa pag-reduce ng number of subjects, ang problema naman daw po doon is yes, you are reducing the number of subjects, pero yung competencies isinisiksik sa bawat subject. So kumbaga very cluttered pa rin yung curriculum. In your opinion, Doctor, ano po ba yung mga competencies na dapat talaga nandun per subject para maiwasan yung congestion, kumbaga?
Ay, babalik uli ako, no? Dapat lang yung reading with comprehension, tapos writing your ideas clearly and fluently. Pagkatapos, yung confidence to be able to speak very clearly, respect for others, yung values, di ba? Yung being a responsible and patriotic citizen, loving your country, serving the poor, yung ganon, yung talagang yung life skills. Tapos, palagay ko yung mathematics skills, yung pag-unawa sa mga numero, sa fraction, para makasolve ka ng problema. Diba? So, hindi yung yung multiplication table, di ba? Kailangan, hindi yun kailangan maunawaan mo na magamit mo yung numero sa paglutas ng mga problema. Tapos, syempre, yung science, kailangan din yun kasi kailangan, ang science naman, ang problema ng dati, yung puro memorization, di ba? Natatandaan nyo yung what are the planets, ganyan. Di ba kailangan talaga yung pag-o-observe mo, paggawa mo ng inference, pagbibigay mo ng tanong, yung proseso dapat, hindi yung facts ang importante, yung process. Palagay ko, hindi yung knowledge and facts ang importante. Ang importante yung skills.
It's really
skills
going back to the basics. That's how far behind we are, that basics na lang muna.
Hindi knowledge dapat 'di ba? Kasi yung knowledge, kung meron kang skills of research, investigation, for example, yung sa Google na lang, 'di ba? Kung wala kang skill of defining the facts that you need to know, hindi mo rin magagamit yung Google kasi kailangan doon pag type mo, ano ba yung kailangan mo, 'di ba? So you have to define the knowledge and the information that you need to know. So yun ang dapat nating ma-develop sa bata.
Okay.
Not memorizing the facts, but really developing skills of investigation.
All right. Now let's go to the teachers, because now finally the government is setting aside funds to hire more teachers. But the problem is, are they trained? Are they capable? And Synergia has also been very successful in that regard. So, ano po ang mapapayo ninyo sa DepEd na paano pipiliin at anong gagawin dito sa mga bagong guro?
Alam mo, ang pinaka-mabisang pagtitrain ng mga guro, hindi PowerPoint. Ito ay talagang pagmumodelo sa mga guro na may eksperyensya na magaling. Ito yung tinatawag nating peer coaching and mentoring. Kahit nga sa business, di ba? Hindi na uso yung nagpa-PowerPoint presentation. Kailangan lang yung mga peer coaching and peer mentoring. So, nagturo ako sa grade 3. Natuto ako sa pamamagitan ng paggaya ng mabuting halimbawa ng ibang guro. Alam mo, ang daming magaling na guro eh. Kaya lang, hindi natin sila kinikilala. So, parating marami tayong consultants, di ba? Naku, kasalanan din yan minsan ng DepEd. Puro consultants ang kinukuha. Ang daming magagaling na guro na nakakaalam kung ano talaga yung problema ng bata. Yun ang ginagawa pa namin ng Sinerhiya eh. Hindi kami nag-prescribe kung ano yung dapat ninyong malaman. Tinatanong muna namin, ano ba yung kakulangan? Tapos, tinatanong namin, sino ba yung magagaling na teacher? So, sige, gawin natin yung programa ng pagtuturo mula sa peers nila. So, yon, di ba? Tapos, pangalawa, kailangan yung mga sa akin, tatapos namin ng workshop sa mga teachers sa Valenzuela eh. Kasi minsan, yung least resistance, yung tinatawag nating rote teaching. So, pagtuturo ng reading, children, repeat after me, sunshine, moon, ganyan. Hindi pwede kasi kailangan independent reader ang bawat bata. At meron namang siyensya sa reading eh. Sa Amerika, ang ginagamit nila yung tinatawag na phonics. Kailangan malaman ng bata ang tunog ng bawat titik kasi yung titik A, that's the letter, no? But the sound is different. So, kailangan alam nila yung tunog ng bawat titik. They should be able to blend the different letters together. Doon mahina yung bata, blending. Putting sounds together and then comprehension and critical thinking. Yung lang 4 na yon, di ba? Tapos sa math naman, really making the children understand dimensions, size, comparing, and contrast. And then you start from, kasi karamihan ng guro, puro pisara di ba? So sa math, kagaya ng Singapore math, which is very, very basic, mag-uumpisa ka sa real objects, bato, kung wala kayong audiovisual, titignan mo yung bato, tapos yung 3 bato, idagdag mo sa 5, pabilang mo sa bata, and then you go to drawing, and then that's the only time you go to blackboard. So, napaka-basic talaga nung pagiging mabuting guro. Pero hindi natin nagagawa kasi siguro galing sa university, mga theoria, pero pagpunta mo sa classroom, paano ko ba ito ituturo, di ba? So yung mga magagaling na teachers, sila yung dapat mag-mentor ng kanilang mga bagong guro.
We feel like your students here, the 3 of us.
I know.
Dr. Guevara, for your time, this is really a very complex problem and we need more, sessions with you, perhaps. Thank you so much for your time.
Salamat, Ces, Sean, and Pauline.
Maraming salamat, Doc.
Maraming pong salamat.
Right. Well, meantime, the World Health Organization has adopted a landmark global pandemic agreement aimed at preventing a repeat of the disjointed COVID-19 response. After 3 years of negotiations, 124 member states voted to approve the treaty, while 11 countries abstained. The agreement sets out a plan to ensure better coordination, faster responses, and more fair access to vaccines and medicines in future health crises. For its part, the Philippine government hailed the adoption as a historic milestone for global health security. DOH Secretary Ted Herbosa, who also serves as president of the World Health Assembly, urged countries to implement the treaty with urgency.
Assembly ready to adopt this resolution? I see no objection. The resolution is adopted.
Meanwhile, the co-chairs of the Independent Panel for Pandemic Preparedness and Response lauded the newly adopted accord. Former Liberia President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf says that even in uncertain times, the only way to prevent and mitigate the impact of pandemics is to work together and to leave no one behind. For former New Zealand Prime Minister Helen Clark, the agreement is a crucial step for global health security, giving all regions access to the tools they need to stop outbreaks before they become pandemics. She also stressed that much work remains, especially in financing and fair access to life-saving medical tools. Clark underscored the need to understand evolving risks, saying the world should not wait to get started since dangerous pathogens are looming and they certainly will not wait. Clark and Sirleaf also expressed hope that the agreement will be open for signatures by 2026 and urged bold action to fund global preparedness efforts.
We're going to be pausing for another quick break, but when we return, the no-contact apprehension policy's implementation resumes in just 5 days. Transportation authorities hope that this is a better version of the scheme that had a lot of motorists up in arms back in 2022. Keep it here.
The big story is back with the Philippine National Police looking into strengthening once more the Barangay Anti-Abuse Council. PNP sees this as barangay hold the records of those who have been involved in street drugs trade. Matandang Balara, the biggest barangay in Quezon City, is open to cooperate. They believe rampant drug trade has returned and is manifesting in worsening crimes in community.
Talagang ramdam namin na talagang bumalik, na wala yung takot ng mga nagbebenta ng shabu. Talagang garapalan minsan ang kanilang pagbebenta. Parang mga nagpipiesta ulit. Nakapagtaka rin, di ba? Kung nahuhuli yung mga source, bakit sa baba ang dami pa rin ang dami pa rin droga.
Babalikan lang po yung ating estratehiya ng mga nakaraang panahon na kung saan pinagbabasihan ng ating mga local police stations, yung pong listahan na galing po sa barangay. Bukod dun sa ating anti-drug operations na kasalukuyan na hinahabol natin sa pamamagitan ng bloodless anti-drug operations, yung pong ating mga big fish o mga level 1 po na drug lords, ay isama po ngayon, idagdag po yung mga small drug offenders po.
Meantime, the MMDA is picking up where it left off with its no-contact apprehension program. The agency promises to do better with implementation to prevent a barrage of complaints when the scheme was enforced the first time. Gerard De La Peña has the story.
Starting Monday, May 26, the MMDA Command Center in Pasig will not only be used to monitor traffic, but also to catch traffic law offenders. Here, details of vehicles violating traffic rules are automatically captured, with use of CCTV cameras strategically placed around the metro streets. This is in preparation for the resumption of the no-contact apprehension policy. Recently, the Supreme Court partially lifted its temporary restraining order on the NCAP on roads that the MMDA has jurisdiction over: EDSA, C5, Recto Avenue, Quirino Avenue, Araneta Avenue, C6, Ross Boulevard, and Taft Avenue. Once again, motorists will no longer see enforcers on the road. Instead, CCTVs will keep track of violations, and only until an infraction is clear will tickets be sent to violators. According to transport authorities, the number of traffic violators tripled when the NCAP was suspended back in 2022.
This only shows na pag wala pong nakikitang enforcer sa daan, malakas po ang loob at nawawala po yung disiplina ng mga motorista.
The MMDA says they could have easily collected as much as 450 million pesos in fines. Just the same, the MMDA is still relieved that the initiative is back to help rid the roads of erring motorists. The Department of Transportation also supports the return of NCAP, but emphasizes the need to fix the current records and system, especially when it comes to transferring the registration of second-hand vehicles. That's because the MMDA will address the citation tickets to the person the vehicle is registered under.
Kung mahirap ilipat dahil sa mga komplikadong mga proseso at red tape, problema din yan. So, on our end, nag-commit po ang DOTR at ang LTO na isi-streamline natin yung prosesong yan. Pero at the same time, kailangan meron ding consequence kung hindi mo ilipat.
Road safety advocates remind traffic authorities for clearer road markings and signages. Motorists, on the other hand, are divided on the re-implementation of the NCAP.
Kung hindi ka naman pasaway na driver, wala namang problema eh.
Okay rin sana, kaya lang, sa sitwasyon ng CCTV natin, minsan sumasablay.
The no-contact apprehension policy could not have come at a better time. By June, the EDSA rehabilitation project is set to kick in. The NCAP removes the extra layer of work for enforcers who also needs to manage the heavier than usual congestion expected from EDSA's major repair. The DOTR is likewise finding ways to ease traffic on the major thoroughfare. It is considering the extension of operating hours for the MRT and adding buses on the EDSA busway. The Transportation Department is also talking to San Miguel Corporation for the possible waiving of fees on the Skyway as an alternative route to EDSA. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, we are One News.
Before we say goodbye, our big picture for tonight is from the island to the palace. The cast and crew of Hollywood hit film The Last Resort was welcomed by no less than President Bongbong Marcos himself in Malacanang today. The Last Resort tells the story of a hotel executive who becomes enchanted by the country's landscapes and locals' warmth, later on crossing paths with a charter pilot. The romantic comedy film is shot entirely in the Philippines and stars Daisy Ridley and Alden Ehrenreich, both known for their roles in Star Wars. It is directed by Donald Petrie and has as executive producer MVP Group Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan.
Wow, do we know
exciting.
when it will be shown?
I don't know when it will
We're
be
gonna have to...
But we're gonna have to have it on the big picture when it does.
Yes.
Right?
Or
But,
the premiere or something.
So I see the
It's
next...
nice to see Hollywood films being shot here, right?
Yeah,
Agree.
showcasing the sides of the Philippines.
At the same time, also Filipino stars making it big in Hollywood.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
On that, ang showbiz.
Wait.
Well,
News for us.
yes, we do. But we have to call in the next guy.
Yeah,
so
let's call them
let's
first.
close up the big story.
All right,
That's
all
it
right.
for us on this midweek Wednesday evening.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thank you for watching. Have a good night.